was it?
I didn't have any posters that stand out in my immediate memory, but I'm a 90s girl.
Right.
And so...
Yeah, I know where this is going.
So...
Or should
I
say which street this is about to turn on.
So I was the prime age when boy bands became a thing.
Right.
And I was an NSYNC girl. And
okay.
So my...
Somehow I knew you were going to say that.
Kelsey had his money on Backstreet over
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
I actually did not grow to appreciate the Backstreet Boys. Until,
they seem a little older for you.
Maybe 5 years.
What about 98 Degrees?
Oh, yeah.
Never been.
Give me just one night.
No.
Oh, no.
Other than that one song they did for Mulan.
You gotta be true to your heart.
Yes, that was
True to your heart.
Kel's killing it right now.
Okay. So
which NSYNC member?
Yeah.
Specifically.
I could never settle on just one. I
Oh.
think if you ask
You
me
wanted
now,
all of them?
No, well,
You
no.
wanted your Justin Timberlakes, your Lance Basses,
Actually, no.
your Joey Fat Ones.
Fatone.
I would flip back and forth a lot between
it's still
Lance
Fat
and
One.
JC.
Okay.
Yeah. I fuss with JC actually a lot, like, cause he was on American Best Dance Crew.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the Scottie Pippen of NSYNC, and people didn't want to give him his proper respects.
And that's a sports person that I know.
Yes,
So that's good. Kels, what about you? Who stole your young heart and made it their own?
Man, there's been a lot of them.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I totally just.
Ooh.
I know who it is.
Go.
You know,
I know who it is. It's Brink.
Oh! I mean, this is very topical. You put that GIF out there.
I
I
know.
shared it, and all the emotions came back.
I know.
I shared that shit too.
It's soul skating.
Soul skate, you skate from your soul, man.
Doesn't matter if your dad's out of work and your
Doesn't.
family needs the money, and someone's offering to pay you to do what you love. You don't sell out. No. You're a soul skater for life.
Skating is free.
So, who was it for you, Kels?
Damn. I got. There's multiple stories, but no, I'm gonna go with one in particular. Mine was in high school. It was definitely Nelly Furtado. I had her picture from a Rolling Stone, several of her pictures from Rolling Stone in my locker, and when I found out that she was actually pregnant and married, that literally crushed me. I felt some type of way, like, yo.
You felt betrayed.
I was sitting like,
heart shattered.
It was like
a little bit.
like. What?
You're like looking at
That
the
doesn't-
poster
no.
and you're picking up the pieces of your own heart
Exactly.
at the same time.
I just looked in my locker and just stared at it like, dreams don't come true. Yo.
You were the original Lizzo talking to Nelly Furtado saying you could have had a bad bitch.
Yes. You could have had a bad bitch. I was a bad bitch back in my day.
I guess if we're talking high school, for me, it was Lindsay Lohan circa Mean Girls and Herbie Fully Loaded is what did it for me. Herbie Fully Loaded. I mean, as a kid, I watched Parent Trap and I was like, there's two of her.
Yo.
This is amazing. You find out it's one person, you find out she's twice as talented, which means she did twice as many drugs when she got into the limelight.
Lindsay
She had to
Lohan,
double
Mean
down on
Girls.
that. She had
That
to
was a
double down.
moment in time.
I've always had it bad for redheads.
One of the
It's a whole
reasons I
thing.
watched Mean Girls way too much. Also, that's when she dropped Rumors off her debut album. That shit was fire. If you don't fuck with Rumors, you need to go listen to Rumors. Lindsay Lohan had a music career. She had that. Then
They
she
all had music
She had
careers.
Over, which is a jam too. Lindsay Lohan was on my list. So was Ashley Simpson back then and there. Pieces of Me is still my jam. Love. The Missy Elliott remix is a smash. And I didn't take your boyfriend.
Missy.
That shit is a classic.
Yeah.
And that was her response to Lindsay Lohan talking shit about her because she was again with Wilder Vomerez at the time.
Hey, man. He was out there doing that Yo Mama show, which
For real,
took everyone by surprise.
And I know y'all didn't tune in to get all that random pop information from the heyday, but that's why my brain is filled of useless knowledge.
Well, now that our hormones are all set in, let's go ahead and get the episode started. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Escaping Podcast.
The best podcast in Colorado Springs when it comes to all things geek, nerdy, and everything in between.
And by everything in between, he obviously means those moments when you realize your star crush has moved on without you, without ever really knowing your name. Today we are talking about spooky, supernatural, and horror elements in comics, media, and our lives. I'm Daniel, as always. To my right, I've got
Kels for show, aka Hocus Focus. Yeah.
For those of you that don't know Kelsey,
You gotta drop some more.
he's got glasses, he's got class, he's got style, he's got finesse. He's the man of your
black
dreams. Across the table from us, we have who are you?
Tasheena. I work with Daniel at Escape Velocity and wear many, many hats at this store.
You do wear a lot of hats.
I do.
You have your flat bills,
Yeah.
your beanies,
All of them. All the hats.
the managerial one without the title.
Exactly.
Oh.
Well,
But let's not get into that.
The early 2000s trucker hat.
Get that pay raise.
I
Get that pay
consider
raise.
myself the social media manager. And
Yeah.
so,
Okay. Yeah. We've also got John here. He'll be doing some sketch work. He might chime in from time to time. But how you doing, John?
I'm still just John.
Oh man, you were quiet over there.
I'm mostly an observer.
He will be watching us creepily as we move our mouths and make sounds
Jeepers
with them.
creepers.
So spooky, supernatural, and horror elements, guys. What are some of your favorite stories? What are some ones that really dug in deep on you?
well, all of us are fresh out of Ice Cream Man Book Club, and I'm excited to talk about that in a much smaller group.
Oh my god, it was
Yes.
it was crazy. All three of us were
was.
there, and when everyone starts making the same points for 2 hours, it gets a little. What's the word I would use?
You should read volume 3.
That's all that was said.
And the rocker stuck.
Tell me about Ice Cream Man.
Well, and I mean, too, on Book Club, that is the absolute first time that we've ever had somebody drop a spoiler like that.
Oh my god.
So that was a little.
You know, it's I saw Alex, the gears in her head turning, and then when she said it, she's like, "Oh, or maybe he's not this thing or that thing. Maybe he's just a goblin."
Right.
But, who is he? And
So the Ice Cream Man is this really great, like almost anthology horror series that gets a little too real at times, but it gives you that Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt kind of feel in that every issue is definitely its own episode, but there is this overarching storyline to the whole thing.
right.
That you start to learn that it all takes place in the same town, and that there are at least 2 main characters that are reoccurring.
Now we never get to find out what the town's name is. I don't think it's nowhere.
No,
Would it
I
be
think-
safe to assume that this is Flavor Town? 31 Flavor Town. No, bad joke.
You could bask in
Baskin
robbiness of our joy
Robbins.
right now.
Thank you, Kels.
Come on, man.
What about you,
Same
Kels?
page. Same page.
As far as like spooky stories, there was a comic book written by Scott Snyder that came out like maybe 6-7 years ago called Witches. It was pretty like dark. It had the mystery. The story is very dense. Not dense, but it's like I'm trying to figure out the best way. There's a lot of little pieces. Without me sitting here explaining it, that would take up like a whole podcast. But
That's a whole nother episode.
exactly,
as
it's
we
a
said.
whole nother episode. But I guess the short version of it is that a father is trying to protect his daughter from supernatural creatures that live in the woods, and his daughter is not sacrificed, but given up to them as a tribute. So if you give them a person to possess, then you have good fortune bestowed upon you.
Okay.
And now the father is trying to go find his daughter and rescue him from these quote unquote witches, but they're not like your traditional witches with like broomsticks and wands and noses. These are like these creatures that feed on the fear. But at the same time, for some reason, you forget them. Like they make you forget they exist.
Okay.
So it's hard to convince people that they're there, and you're not just making this shit up. Because like no, they play on people's paranoia and fears. Yeah.
Damn. Okay. You've been telling me to check that one out for a while.
Yeah, and it's only like 6 issues. So
Okay.
Does that seem like that's kind of something that's kind of built in, or you think they are actually playing on the fears?
No, they're actually playing on the fears because that's how they get. Like that's how they smell you. They can smell the fear on you. Like it's one of those type things. It's
So
almost
it's
like
kind of like it shit.
yeah, it's like a pheromone, but they're not like space spiders or anything weird. Like, well, they're still weird, but it's not like that. It's like this homegrown, like rural Southern, like wise tale type feel to the book.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the reason why I liked it too, because being from the South, you hear these stories, like you see a creepy tree, but it's just a tree, but then it's like, but is it? Like, it looks like it could have been alive at once, and
it's one of those things where when you don't put your laundry away on the chair,
yes,
it changes.
It turns into the monster.
Yeah.
Just like the book you just gave me,
Something is killing the children.
Something is killing the children.
Well,
and it has
I
a
am
very
super about
close vibe and feel artistically, and like the nature of the story and tone to witches.
So one that I really want to talk about is Lock and Key. That's by Joe Hill. It's Stephen King's son. He doesn't write under the same last name. Because,
word?
Yeah, he wanted to make his own name for himself, which I really respect.
Kind of like Nicolas Cage did.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be a Coppola.
Yes.
But,
and he just came out and shitted on Marvel movies too.
Yeah. And did you know that his cousin is Jason Schwartzman?
Word.
Yeah, but that's not what this is about.
It is
Although
not.
he will find familial ties in Lock and Key.
Does he hate Marvel movies because his son did 2 of them?
Maybe.
Is that why he hated it?
In Lock and Key, there's a family that go back to the house where the father grew up. Father's been murdered, and they discover these keys that unlock all sorts of crazy shit. But there's also the father's murderer still lurking. What happens? What will they unlock? You've read Lock and Key.
The great thing about Lock and Key is that as much as you're faced with like the new exciting adventures, if you can call them adventures, I guess.
I would absolutely call them adventures.
That these kids go through is that not only are they fighting dangers inside of these doors and dangers outside, as far as their father's murderers, but each one of them were like traumatized in different ways or changed in different ways from their father's witnessing their father's murder and being a part of it.
Right.
That they have these like inner demons that they're battling too. So it makes it's
It
got a
adds layers to
surprising
it.
amount of depth. And
Right.
in researching Lock and Key a little bit, I had read that Joe Hill actually intended for this to be a much smaller series. He only wanted it to be like a 6-part series, but then he figured out he could not tell this story in that many
Like
issues.
you needed a little bit more.
Yes.
And those paychecks look real good.
Well, and one of the things I love about it is even when the horror elements are happening, there's still the family bonds. Like, you get those real moments between siblings that I don't know if Joe Hill has siblings or not. But he actually writes it pretty damn well for someone who may or may not have, brothers or sisters. Yeah. Let's go ahead and go back to the origin real quick of horror in comics. Because it's not a new thing. In fact, it was one of the foundation blocks for when comics first started.
And a lot of people would say that horror comics really started with EC, Eerie Comics, and Creepy, which is, became later Tales from the Crypt.
Mm-hmm.
And they had been printing them and gaining popularity among almost everybody.
Right.
Until some, stuck-up, uptight...
Guys with too much time on their hands and a whole lot of Jesus on the brain.
Yes. Yeah, they began thinking that, it was
Somebody had a
bad
rain
for
on the
our
parade.
nation.
Well, of course,
how
they
dare you.
censored the hell out of them.
For real.
But this was, again, one of the foundations of comics. You would have scary comics. You would have romantic comics. Sometimes they were both. Most of the time they were
Cowboy
both.
Western.
Cowboy Westerns, before capes.
Yes.
This was a big part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, they did eventually find a way to get around that.
When did that happen?
Well, because originally the comics were being printed in color, and so they managed to print more horror comics when they started printing them in black and white, because then they could technically say that they were intended for an older audience and not children.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's where it started. It did struggle, and those comics in particular have had a lot of licensing issues, and it's a mess. But
Right. Well, it was the 70s, right, when that really made its resurgence back into comics as a medium.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So, where has that taken us nowadays, guys?
As far as comics, there's definitely is a resurgence now. I could say for like Marvel. I don't know if it's a coincidence. Like you said, the supernatural and the horror comics got like the resurgence, the first go around in like the 70s, and that's also the year, the decade we got Blade and Ghost Rider, two of Marvel's most prominent supernatural characters with the horror element, you know, a flaming skull and a man that's a half vampire.
Right.
And now that we have, you know, I mentioned a little bit earlier, Nicolas Cage did give us 2 Ghost Rider movies. Wesley Snipes gave us the Blade trilogy, which was the precursor for modern day superhero movies in general. That was like the catalyst that paved the way for the X-Men, that paved the way for Spider-Man, that paved the way for everything else after that. But now that Marvel, especially like the MCU, is forever expanding, they're going to have to start figuring out new stories to tell and new genres to tackle. And the supernatural element is one area that they really want to start putting their foot into. And that's why we're getting a new Blade movie with Mahershala Ali. Ghost Rider, the series has been in development. I heard it got canceled, but now they might be making that a movie, and he did appear in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I think you could look into that for as like the Marvel side. And then with DC, they have been constantly putting out Constantine material since the show surprisingly got canceled by NBC. They brought it back on Legends tomorrow. He had a standalone animated movie, a Justice League Dark animated movie, and now that Justice League Dark is getting a sequel coming out next year. So, and also the Keanu Reeves movie, I can't forget that.
Sure.
That was my first introduction into Constantine. I knew nothing about him, but after I saw that movie, I was like,
Gotta go with it.
that was a good character, and Keanu did his thing too. Outside of him not really being British, but he nailed the character, the characteristics, the attitude. I think was very well represented.
Well, and it's the same guy who has been playing him recently, who's also doing the voice acting for the cartoon, right?
Yes.
That's some what is it? A Matthew Lillard kind of level of commitment to a role.
Yes.
Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, for those of you who are uncultured Philistines.
Or
I know
that guy from Hackers.
Or that guy that got killed in Scream.
Or the blue-haired Mohawk man from SLC Punk. But, so...
Really, Marvel and DC
I
both
think we
have some
weirdly just
really,
like ran down the IMDb of Matthew
bit.
Lillard right there.
some really rich characters in their supernatural like realms, and Constantine in particular is an interesting one because he can cross publishers technically.
Right, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Vertigo.
So it would be, if they ever chose to develop that more, it could be really quite interesting and genre bending.
Well, there's also the fact that supernatural doesn't necessarily mean scary.
That's true too.
Like,
And-
we've also got the Master of Mysticism,
Yes.
Dr. Stephen Strange.
Yes.
And that was a fun movie. That wasn't necessarily scary in any way, unless you were 5.
But it's funny too that you brought up Constantine crossing not necessarily genres, but labels or whatever. There was a rumor that he might pop up in the Lucifer TV series, since DC owns Vertigo and all that. And like you said, Doctor Strange was mysticism. Like, there's other ways to do supernatural, like you said, without being fangs and claws and blood and guts and gore.
Although when the fangs and the blood and the claws and the butts and the bubbles come into play, sometimes it can be really good in these supernatural stories. And one that I know that you know about, that I really like to talk about, is Hellboy.
Hellboy's so good.
Hellboy is so good.
I mean, I've always had like such a great appreciation for the art in itself, but when you have a book that pairs art so stylistically well with
my
the
God.
writing, it's the perfect mixture. Like, it's, if you want to get into comics, Hellboy is an amazing place to start because it doesn't have that horror element. You could certainly be distressed by some of what's in there, but it has this deeper way of like striking home because you can see that despite that Hellboy is a demon, he's constantly struggling with his humanity and his duty to protect.
It's a fantastic story. So you're saying for someone new to comics, you would tell them to go to Hellboy? Straight to Hellboy. Yeah?
Where would they start? Do you have any kind of recommendation for where to
Seeds of
start?
Destruction, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And recently they've done a really great job in reformatting them into omnibus. So you can start with the first omnibus and get the whole story. And the great thing is that they've reprinted them in the like chronological order that the events occur in, as opposed to
The way you got them presented in the story.
right.
Okay.
Well,
That's what's up.
And Hellboy is one of those ones that does have a big following because of the movies. And then... then there was that David Harbour movie.
Wait.
That,
question.
It tried,
David
it
Harbour.
tried, it
Or
tried
David Harbour.
really, really hard to be something that came before it, and better than what came before it. But much like many things, it didn't live up to.
Yeah,
the
bless
hype.
his heart.
Did you go and see it in theaters?
No. No, I did not. I did not. I have a big problem with how I have nothing against David Harbour. I love him. I think he's great. But
He's the Grouch.
He is the Grouch.
He's
Grouch,
the hero that Sesame Street needs.
But I just did not like the effects that they used to create Hellboy. I did not like the look of him, and that was enough to kind of turn me off from wanting to pay money to see the movie. I can wait.
And this was supposed to be a darker, grittier take on Hellboy, but then it had a Guardians of the Galaxy type trailer for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it felt like that was the humor they was going for, because when Guillermo del Toro directed those, so he had that humor, but that wasn't the driving point. It was more like the heart, which was Hellboy. That would make those almost a family-friendly horror movie. Like, it felt Monster Squad-ish, like
right.
in that realm. Like, these are these freaks, these monsters, but they're here for a purpose that is good. Like, you don't think they're here to do. You think they're here to destroy the world. Well, technically he was, but that's not what he's going to do. But when, the remake, I was watching, it's like, I watched it. I didn't pay for it. No, I found it somewhere illegally. I'm going to be 100.
Oh, no. Kelsey, this our family show? This is our family show, Kelsey.
Hey, families have secrets, too.
For all of you kids out there listening, I just got to say, make sure that you don't re-upload after you've torrented it, because that's how they'll get you. Just download it and then delete the file.
I didn't say be like me.
You never said you were a role model.
I'm not. I'm just a model, citizen. But but the new Hellboy, they were going way more comedic. I saw the vision. There was a good film in there. I think if they had a better budget, it would at least look better. And then some of the action sequences weren't well shot. The action was subpar, definitely compared to the first two. So that would be my biggest critique. But as far as Hellboy himself, I think he did a good rendition of Hellboy. It's just like the movie wasn't.
Well, it's much like a point I always like to make, that Zooey Deschanel is not to blame for how bad of a movie Tin Man is.
Tin Man wasn't even a movie. It was a mini-series on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, it was a bad mini-series, and barely that.
It was not.
Zooey Deschanel's fantastic.
Tin Man was good.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I also enjoyed Alice.
Okay,
I didn't
Alice
watch Alice.
was fun. Tin Man was hot garbage.
Tin Man was not hot
Listeners,
garbage.
The Munchkins were a bunch of Oompa Loompas.
So hard right now.
The Munchkins were a bunch of Oompa Loompas, still wild out there before Wonka had
if you
found
only
them.
had a brain, maybe you could have got the message they was trying to convey.
I guess I wasn't courageous enough to make it through that god awful movie.
Well, if I only had a heart, I would have cared more about your feelings.
Don't step all over my shit with your ruby red intentions.
Hey,
So let's switch gears here real quick.
We went a little deep there, guys. We went a little deep.
Let's switch gears here real quick, and let's talk about mundane things or known genres or stories that have got tweaked a little bit to fit the macabre. Like Marvel Zombies, Afterlife with Archie, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Jughead the Hunger, Jughead as a werewolf. How come
that's
no
what
one
that's
thought
about.
about that? Yeah,
And now Vampironica.
Vampironica, Blossom 666.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about
There's
that.
a whole subset.
that
of
Archie
these things
universe is crazy. That's why it always baffles me, but at the same time makes me laugh about people that like to shit on Riverdale. I'm like, if you know about the Archie comics, they have all these different spin-offs. There's one where Archie fights the Predator.
Yes.
Archie teams up with the Punisher.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of weird shit
Preach.
about these kids that are trapped in the 50s and 60s.
Jughead's been wearing a crown for 45 years.
Exactly, and eating hamburgers with no diabetes, no high blood pressure.
No.
He still have both his feet, so it's like one of those things.
He's
like
just hanging out at Burger King.
exactly, like
Eat your heart out, Wilfred Brimroll.
if Riverdale's not your jam,
Diabetes.
don't worry about it. There's other Archie shit out there for you.
But it's great because you have a sandbox of characters that have been known from classic comic book days where it's like Bazooka Joe shit, you know?
Hell yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, well what happens if, Jughead's dog gets hit by a car and Sabrina uses the Necronomicon to bring him back? Because she has that. She's a witch. she's not just like there making Harvey fall in love with her or addicting herself to pancakes. Remember that episode? That was wild.
Klaatu Verada Nikto.
It's a whole thing, and it was wonderfully done. Now the guy who wrote that, I can't think of his name right now. Probably something like Beautiful McWriting Hands. He also is in charge of the CW verse of Archie.
If you're referring to Roberto Aguirre?
Roberto what?
Arguella.
It's an AG.
Aguiar.
Aguirre.
I don't know.
That's okay.
Roberto. We'll just
Yes,
call him
Roberto,
Roberto.
yes.
Robbie.
Yes.
Hey, Robbie.
Because I got it written down. I don't know which order roll in that bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is a comic book spin-off from the Archieverse. And a lot of people didn't even know that the original 90s TV series starring Melissa Joan Hart was an adaptation of the comic book. So now when it debuted on Netflix, you had all this nostalgia vibes coming back, and all these older fans of the original coming in thinking they're going to get a piece of their childhood. Wrong.
No.
No.
This is not for you.
This ain't your witch.
It's almost as bad as those guys who got angry that She-Ra wasn't super sexualized even though she's a teenager.
For real, that's a whole nother can of worms.
That's another episode where we
Really?
go in and piss off the people who don't want us to tell them the truth.
First off, I ain't gonna say all
Different
that, but I'm saying
podcast.
like he's a
Different
grown man
podcast.
complaining about She-Ra. Bruh,
Yeah, right,
stop.
right.
It's not for you.
You're
It's for women's.
You're a grown adult complaining about another teenage serial drama about a witch when you are in your 40s.
Exactly.
Grow the fuck up.
For real. Enjoy it for what it is, or don't. But don't sit here and say this is that. It's not supposed to be that. If you want the original Sabrina, watch it.
Yes.
It's that.
There are ways to do it. Like Kelsey said, illegally download whatever you want, kids. There
Exactly.
are no there's no ramifications. There's no consequences.
Nah.
The government, if they can't see you, they can't get you.
Ooh, this is one of those shows.
Yeah, we're gonna get really Alex Jones
just
on
got-
this shit.
I do not vouch for
we
any of
just got a
that.
little clickbaity.
If they don't see you, they can't catch you.
I guess the only thing that I'd say about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is that if you thought that the TV show was bad, the comic is worse in terms of its
In a good way.
in a great way.
In a
Yes.
fantastic way.
Yes.
But we did run into an issue. Most comic book stores did. I want to say it was last Halloween. Halloween Comic Fest 2018. They gave us a free copy of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina to put out with the rest of the books. It was rated for kids and young teens. The contents were not for kids,
No.
not
Oh,
for
word?
young
Not at
teens.
all.
There
Were there
was this
nipples?
whole thing. Oh, there were naked folks. I think at one point her
Yeah.
dad was trying to have sex with her.
Oh yeah, because her dad's the devil.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
been trying to smash.
But it was a whole
I
nightmare
don't
where
think
everyone's
that's the right
like,
way to phrase that. Cal.
parents saw the name Sabrina on there, and they're like, "Oh, I grew up with Sabrina."
She has a talking cat.
Yeah.
Nah, Salem don't. Well, I know in the series he doesn't talk. He just transforms into some type of monster and fucks shit up off screen, which I'm pissed about. But that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, there's a big difference between the original and this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so worth picking up if you haven't already checked it out. And it did go like out of stock for a really long time. Like it sold out immediately.
Same thing with Afterlife with Archie. Those two were just
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
well. So we have that one, and then Marvel Zombies, which was by Robert Kirkman, who, if you
it
don't know
makes
who Robert
sense
Kirkman
now.
is the Walking Dead
Walking
guy.
Dead.
Which we have a whole special planned for you guys. We're going to do a very in-depth look on Walking Dead, the comic book, the video game, the TV
series,
show,
of course.
the fan art.
Spin-off series.
Pregnant Carl is my favorite fan art.
Yo, what?
So don't
Say
worry, we're
it
going to that.
again.
Robert
Say it
Kirkman.
again.
Robert Kirkman. Carl. He's got to cut the baby out of himself this time.
What did I tell you?
So he did the Marvel Zombies, which you know the history of Marvel Zombies, Kelsey.
Yes, Marvel Zombies is an interesting concept in itself, but it didn't start in its own series. It started as a spin-off of a story in the Ultimate Fantastic Four book. I want to say issue 5 or 10. It was very early in the run. The only reason I bought the comic because Matt Needle was on the cover holding like a limp Reed Richards in his hand. It's like, Matt Needle fucking up the Fantastic Four. I gotta buy this book. Open it up, they're on an alternate Earth, and Magneto is trying to protect these people from these zombies. I'm like, okay, but then you find out they're also superheroes that have been infected by this zombie virus, and one of the last survivors is Magneto. And I was like, oh shit. So now
he's saving people.
Yeah.
He's saving Homo
Sapiens
rather than Homo superior.
Exactly. It's like, oh shit, word.
It's incredible.
Of course, he dies at the end, but it's like it was a good read. Then.
Spoilers.
Oh, my bad.
But then we get the history in the Marvel Zombies #1.
Yes.
And you see Peter Parker come home. Aunt May and Mary Jane are there, and they're like, "Oh, Peter, are you okay?" And he goes, "Not today." And he bites them, and he eats Mary Jane and eats Aunt May, and he's just riddled with guilt for the rest of his time as a zombie, which is classic Peter Parker, right? You know, it's like, get over it. Everyone's a zombie. We all have dead uncles, okay?
And then it's a funny thing too, because in
I really
Mark
like
Miller's
how you transitioned that into something even sadder.
bum bum bum.
I mean, if it helps, I was gonna say something totally and entirely inappropriate.
Yes, you're welcome to the show, Tasheena. Please, let us hear it. I'll set you up again. We all have dead uncles. Am I right? Am I right?
It's not
Technically,
that way.
maybe.
No. You. I mean, technically, Peter was just fulfilling his deepest desires, and don't act like either one of you have wanted to eat Mary Jane either.
Oh, and the new Aunt May as well.
Whoa.
Marisa Tomei?
Well, I'm always hungry.
She's very pretty.
She's a very pretty lady.
She a snack for sure. Talking about
Some
eating.
people have described me the same way, like a hostess treat. I'm chunky and bad for you.
Oh, I thought you like, because you're like kind of yellow and filled with cream.
I was gonna
Nope.
say
Nope. Nope.
You're like a cream.
All of my body parts are not jaundiced, and the cream filling is
Listeners.
optional.
Listeners, we are making terrible jokes right now.
'Tis the season to get spooky, and what's scarier out there than thinking about Daniel naked? Not much.
That's true. Now I want to gouge out my own eyes.
I know, but you're still imagining it. You're gonna gouge out the eyes of your brain? I don't think so. So
My third eye is blind.
we've got spooky, we've got supernatural, we've got horror. Where have you guys seen just bad horror be done in these mediums? What is something that tried hard to be good at scaring or dealing with the mysticism and has fallen short?
I have a very large love-hate relationship with a series that's currently going on called A Walk Through Hell.
Oh, yeah.
It's Garth Ennis.
Which is hit or miss.
He can be hit or miss, but he's known for that like gore aspect.
Preacher, Punisher Max,
Yeah.
loads of other stuff.
Well, he did The Boys, didn't he?
He did do
Oh,
that.
he did The Boys.
Yes,
yeah.
he did.
So, I
shit.
mean, he's known for kind of that action-y or action-packed
Right.
gore and violence. And A Walk Through Hell, I really love in its concept. Yes.
It's great on paper.
So is the concept of Walk Through Hell the sequel to Mandy Moore's A Walk to Remember? Like, you see what happened to her after the
right.
fact?
This time everyone has cancer but her.
Ah.
At this point, I honestly
Mandy
can't.
Moore still sucks.
Oh no, Mandy Moore! I know you're one of our big listeners out there, and John didn't mean that.
No, he meant it, but we don't mean it.
Please continue giving to our Patreon.
I'm still missing
Sure,
you like
yeah,
candy.
Yeah.
But-
Patreon first, Mandy. Whatever. Sorry to interrupt, Tasheena.
A Walk Through Hell, I can't even really tell you what it's about at this point because, I mean, it has gotten to the point where it almost doesn't make any
It
sense.
started knowing what it
It's-
was.
Yes, it did. And
It was two very
was
real
great.
elements, and then
And then it's a lot of rambling. It's a lot of
the dialogue walls.
Yes, and that distorted sense of time. Like you never know if this took place before the present or after.
Right, or what is the present?
Yeah, I mean it's
Like on some Westworld shit.
Kind of. Except
Yeah.
this one's doing it in a way where you woke up on a roller coaster underwater, and it just keeps bringing you up for a second of air, then saying, "Well, you don't know what's going on."
Well, and it's gotten to the point too where those great page, you turn the page and there's this splash of
Right,
something
right.
really crazy and what the fuck is going on? That's literally all it has going for it at this point. That's the only thing. That's the only payoff in each issue is trying to figure out what the next big scare is going to be.
Well, and we came to the end of, I guess you'd call it the first season of A Walk Through Hell. Mm-hmm. I don't want any more.
I don't think I need any more either.
I think I'm good.
I walked enough through hell.
Exactly.
My feet are tired.
It's like you're walking barefoot through broken glass, micro machines, and like wet, oily noodles. Not wet by water, but oily.
Okay.
And Legos. And Legos.
Yes. But Kelsey, what's something that has failed you in that genre?
You know, with me particular, as far as comic books, I can't say that there's any I read that I didn't like because I normally buy what I already like. So I don't have too many instances of picking up anything that I don't enjoy. Mm-hmm. So if there was something that somebody recommended to me in the supernatural genre that I picked up, I was probably going to like. But stepping outside of comic books real quick, I would just like to...
Brave New World.
Yes, I just want to note a fact about a TV series known as Pretty Little Liars. They try to incorporate ghost and mysticism into the series, involving the murder of a girl that you found out that isn't murdered. And then they had the audacity to create a spin-off series called Rosewood, where it's all about the spookiness of the town and how there's a spirit that comes alive every couple of years and kidnaps kids just to justify the fact that the killer in the Pretty Little Liars series could have been a ghost. And that the whole time they were seeing a ghost throughout the whole series, which was idiotic and dumb.
Right.
And they never explained. And that's one of the many reasons I hate.
But you're still watching it.
No,
I
stopped watching it for a whole season. It started off good for season 3 to 4 when they didn't make Ezra's nasty little ass but that's a whole nother bag of worms. I'm just gonna leave that at that.
So it's kind of like when they thought they killed the Christ and he came back, and then they had that spin-off with all the that one apostle, and it kind of retconned some shit that happened.
Yes,
before.
and then they had.
That's why I stopped watching.
Then
the
they had
Bible.
what was it? The second, the Old Testament.
Revelation was cool, but it felt like a lot of people.
It was like the Dragon Ball.
Crammed it all in.
It was like the Dragon Ball
you'll
GT.
hear for at least a week. That's why I stopped watching.
That's
the
why I
Bible.
stopped watching the Bible. It got convoluted, you know.
You don't watch it when you live it.
There was time travel at one point.
Oh shit! But isn't life time travel?
Oh shit!
Ooh.
What if we're the aliens?
Existential.
Space is the black hole. We are in it already, man. I'm telling you.
For me, one that I really, really, really tried to get into and could not. Just, it wasn't for me. And you know what? Sorry. Preacher.
Okay.
I like it as a concept.
Word.
I read it when I was younger. I enjoyed it as a teenager who was like, edgelord, yeah, you know what, angels and demons and fucking and fighting. As an adult, I'm like, this has a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, it is kind of like a bad early Tarantino movie.
It is a bad early Tarantino movie from
Yeah.
start to finish.
Have you watched the series?
Exactly.
The series is great.
Okay.
I'm talking about the books.
I'm
The
just
series,
it's just
oh,
curious.
yeah, the series is fantastic. Dominic
That guy that's played
Monahan.
O'Brien. That's not his name.
that played Young Stan Lee.
No, not young Stan Lee. Young
Howard Stark.
Howard Stark. Dominic Cooper. Dominic Cooper is great in the show. The book I went back to reread just recently, and I got to the second volume,
Same.
and I was like,
Yep.
I don't care anymore. I just don't care anymore. Also, there's only so many times, and this is just me personally, when the main character or someone involved with the main character refers to someone as a cunt, and like it's like, oh, you're only talking about the woman that way, or you're kind of chauvinistic, or oh, there's that dude's dick, and this is about to be a really awful rape scene. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So, Kelsey, you were about to rebut that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, playing devil's advocate. Sometimes cunts are women.
Sometimes cunts are all of us.
I know.
Is that the most we've said that word on this show?
Yeah, because that's like a white word. We don't really use that in the black
I'm
community.
so honored to be your first female guest.
That's why, like, low key, like I
The
didn't know.
inaugural use.
I will
C
happily
word.
be the male cunt in this.
See, thank you, but no, like that was
I
a.
want to share. We're on the same team, guys.
that-
Same team, everybody.
Now we need you to say it. So
Because that really is like a cultural thing too. Like I didn't know that was a big deal. Like,
Sure, if you're outside of Australia,
Yeah,
yes.
like,
If
okay.
you're in Australia,
don't
everything
see
is
the word,
permissible
like,
because the animals are trying to kill you.
for real, I was like, all right, that's a word, but we don't use. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tasheena, in
I like
your opinion,
bitch.
who's one of those words? that you're about to say?
Every single deadly snake on one fucking island.
It's a cunt.
That's Australia for you guys.
Right? You're not wrong.
I'm just saying, like,
Anything that tries to bite you and inject you with venom. Okay, let's bring it back around. So, Preacher, I didn't like the book because it felt like a almost like reading Frank Miller's stuff after he was mugged.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's very. I don't want to call it edgy because it's not edgy. It's just angry, and
with no purpose.
with no purpose, other than reaffirming someone else's bias.
Well, so I had been doing this countdown on the store's social media, where I'm kind of featuring 13 different horror comics.
13 Days, 13 Stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
13th reason why you should listen.
Scooby-Doo and the 13 Ghosts.
And it
13 Ghosts.
Where's
13th
our-
century
okay,
Hungry
where-
Ghosts was originally a story in Japan on scrolls.
where is our 13 Ghosts comic book?
Word, because that thread
Thank
came
you.
back when it was like, we need a 13 Ghosts Netflix series explaining the ghosts. Like, well, they kind of did it in the movie, but I get what you're saying.
I
Like
would
a
accept
whole,
that. However, there's so much that could be explored in a comic series about 13 Ghosts.
Way more.
Yes.
And,
Exactly.
you could
Yeah.
do stuff with, because your budget is infinite at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just reboot, like, just make it the sequel. Instead of a sequel movie, make it a sequel series. Then you just could go in and give stories to some new 13 Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, where's the 13 Ghosts Scooby-Doo mashup comic book?
Ooh.
Anime.
They
How
just
do you even
finished
start
Scooby
that
Apocalypse.
series off? Is just like 1 ghost, 2 ghosts, 3 ghosts, 4
ghosts.
Like,
It would definitely be like a mixture of the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo with the Trump, but then they incorporate it into a house, and then they have to unite with Fred and the whole gang, because that's the thing too about 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Fred and Velma, Fred and Velma were not in the series. It was just Daphne, Shaggy, Scooby, Scrappy, Vincent. What was it, Vincent Gould?
Vincent Gould.
Yeah, and the little kid that was the Riff Raff character.
We'll call him Short Route.
Short route. Short stack.
Small fry.
Word. Nacho.
Anyways, so yes, I have been doing this.
There's going to be a lot of fun
I know.
editing points
For
on
real.
this one tonight. It's going to be great.
Oh, you keeping them cunts.
we are killing it right now. We got Scooby-Doo questions, a room full of cunts. I think we're gonna be good.
That's the
So
band name.
we were talking about Preacher, and
Yes.
which is
What's failed?
in Ennis
Yes.
book.
Letdowns.
You said you were doing the Instagram thing.
Well,
13
yes,
Days,
well,
13
yeah,
Stories.
and so in my research for that series, I had come across a comic series called Crossed, which is another Ennis book, yes, and it's so violent. Is it Ennis or is it Ellis? Is it
Warren Ellis wrote Crossed.
Yes. Okay. So
But it's like LN, and it's both double, and it's, it's a whole thing.
racking them is a nightmare. But yeah, and so this series ended up being one that I was just like, no, there's no way I can feature that because all it is blood and guts and rape, and it's kind of like, and he hasn't been the only author for this series throughout its lifespan. It's kind of moved from author to author, and you get to a point where like you kind of just want to like hit these guys up on social media and be like, hey man, you all right? Like,
Right.
And it's the kind of people that read it are like, how are you reading this and enjoying it for what it is? And
It's like
I'm not typically judgmental about people's comic choices, but that's one that
Right,
I'm like,
yeah, but
are you
Kind of
sure?
like what people say about Transformers movies, they're action porn.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
But then it's like,
There was-
if that's your, like, you like, we need more. Like, you remember that particular rape? And that's like,
Right.
in the Kick-Ass book, like, when the character, his love interest gets raped in that book, and I knew exactly what scene wasn't going to be in the movie. It's like, oh, this won't be in the movie. If they did do it, I'd be like, kudos to you, keep it to the source material. Like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
Well,
that's like 3 episodes ago. And
Yeah.
I saw that frame and almost wanted to turn against it.
It's
But
it's hard.
how do you feel about that kind of culture as far as like if someone chooses to read that kind of comic, do you think that applies to them, or if that's something that they're seeking out? Is that...
I don't know. I mean,
because it is very like graphic. It is very terrible.
It takes a certain kind of person to, because this is not a comic that I would call mainstream, and so it takes a certain kind of person to hear about it, to want to seek it out and find it, and to come and get it. Which we carry it. It's right there.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at it on the shelf.
You can come buy it if you want.
You can come buy it and see what I'm talking about.
But we will judge you.
But I'm silently judging you for buying it. That's accurate. I'm sorry, it's true.
That's everybody's superpower.
You'll agree with
Silent
working
judgment.
here. There's plenty of people that we can silently judge that come in and
Oh,
are very
absolutely.
adamant about certain things.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
You don't have to look directly at me, but I get
I'm
it.
not. I didn't want you to feel that I was talking about you, but at the same time, I wanted you
Well-
to know when you went home that I was talking about you.
I
Right,
mean,
I
for
know.
me personally, I mean,
All news is good news.
the guys that read X-Men are typically the worst ones.
I know.
Yeah.
And there's this whole thing where
Brother for life.
it's one of those things where
I will not
you
explain
don't want to
what
hold
hand
it
signals
against.
just happened.
It's one of those things where you don't want to, explain to your coworkers that they don't have a good sense of taste because they don't read X-Men, but you want them to know.
For real. It's not extraordinary by any means.
No, but it is astonishing how low their bar is for good material.
Ah.
Almost uncanny, you'd say.
Yes, like you might have to X-force them to
Well,
read it.
you gotta wonder what about these books is the X factor that makes you want to read it.
About what books?
I think they were trying to play off like a
As
like
many
a triple
X titles
J
as
right there. But
You derailed it real fast. That is a superpower in itself. So
it.
coming to the end of this episode, because we are running a little short on time. What do you want out of the future of horror books or supernatural books? Because they have started this, disappeared for a good while, came back, and are now commonplace. What do you want out of the future of these books?
I mean, in my opinion, the best horror comics out there strike home. I'm not a big fan of, I don't know, I guess, like slasher comics or those types of like horror,
sure.
Yeah.
like at its core.
All guts, no glory.
Right.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
I am much more into books that sort of deal more personally or more close to home, or that cause you to think. I mean, that was one of the reasons why Ice Cream Man continues to stand out, is because it deals with drug addiction and depression and failed lives and lost dreams and.
It really hits you hard when it hits you. Ice Cream
Puppy
Man has
nappers.
okay.
Puppy nappers, yeah.
Ice Cream Man gets under your skin in one of the best ways because you can see the humanity in almost every one of the characters that it visits, but then it holds up the dirty mirror that you just did coke off of it to your face, and it's like, hey, look, you're as messed up as everyone else.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna relate, but I get you.
It's a metaphor.
So
I
It's
guess
a metaphor.
I would just like the horror genre to continue to be intelligent
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
strive to be multidimensional and not just go for the jugular all the time.
Yeah, the
I
low-hanging
see what you
fruit
did
is
there.
easy.
you
but-
actually want it to like hit home instead of just being.
That's my
like,
preference. Yeah.
Just being like visceral and guts.
Yeah.
Kelsey, what about you? What do you want out of the future of this?
Maybe just a little more, like Tasheena was saying, a little more diversity. Definitely like to see it also get more mainstream, because the more mainstream it becomes, it brings people back to the source material, and the comic book industry is always dwindling, so the more people you could get into a shop reading comics, if their first introduction from it was a TV series, I think that'd be good for everybody, and it gives more people opportunities. You can create new characters, new IPAs. That way we don't have the same things being rebooted all the time. It gives us something fresh once people can get into it, and just for having it been treated with care, give us very well written characters, because that what makes the books like Witches and Somebody's Killing the Kids intriguing to me because you get to fall in love or you get to care about the kids in it or the characters, and it's not just like here's the monster. You feel bad when these kids die, or you feel bad when this happens to this character. You want to read what happens next because you're invested in their story that just happens to feature something supernatural.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about Lock and Key. I'm constantly going to go back to Lock and Key because you do care about the kids. You're seeing them, grow. You're seeing them learn and love and lose a lot. And it's like Live, Laugh, Love, but bad. And, man.
Die, cry, and...
I'm not afraid of any of you,
Cackle.
so I'll say this.
I don't know.
I cried at the end of Lock and Key. Because it was a full story, and I won't give it away, but there is this moment of a promise being fulfilled and redemption, and damn, that hit me hard because it was a scary book, it was a suspense-filled book, but it still knew what it was from start to finish, and I think that's what a good horror book should do.
Yes.
It should put you on edge. It should make you look over your shoulder and be like, "Oh, am I alone in this room?" But at the same time, it needs to know what it is, start to finish, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me wanting this out of books, but I like when the evil isn't just cut and dry evil. There's that what's the word? The
You have to
duality,
question.
Yeah, like, is it just another force of the universe? Creation, destruction, light, dark.
Will
good,
it happen
evil.
regardless?
Exactly.
Like, no matter if you're good or bad, this can happen to you.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the great thing about Lock and Key too is that just the pairing between Joe Hill and Gabriel
Oh
Rodriguez.
my God.
I mean, Joe Hill writes the characters in such a way that they're very real and relatable, and you start to really get to know them. And Gabriel Rodriguez had this way of sort of like the art becomes, as the further along in the series that you get, the art gets less childlike and
Yeah.
cartoony.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
at the beginning, it almost looks, it's Disney.
It's very Disney.
Like
Bode
art.
looks like a little Disney character.
Yes, I mean, he's got these great big childlike bright eyes, and I mean, the further you get into the series, the older the art begins to look, and things really
It
progress.
becomes the story. It's symbiotic.
Right, so it is definitely tugging at whatever heartstrings it can grab onto. And the great thing about Witches, which I don't think Kelsey mentioned at all, is that the art is done by Jock, who most people would know now by The Batman Who Laughs.
Really?
Yeah, same guy.
Oh.
That's some fantastic art.
Yeah, and so the fact that it has, I mean, if you know anything about The Batman Who Laughs or have not
It makes
by
sense
some
now.
miracle seen a picture of
It's
him,
everywhere.
look him up.
Yeah.
Because he is scary as fuck.
Cosplay bait, man.
Yeah,
That's-
and so the fact that his art is all over Witches is amazing. It really puts you into that atmosphere and into that state of mind to read
Yeah.
a scary story about witches.
Which
And
is hard to do sometimes. You get some authors who they've got a great story, or you get some artists who have really good work, but the pairing isn't always there. Like, there's plenty of books out there on that rack that are just not everything is going to be Hellboy or
It can't be.
Witches or
Right.
Lock and Key,
Right.
where somehow by some fate they're in step and it's perfect.
Well, Ice Cream Man is sort of like has really weird art.
Everyone's got these
yeah.
big teeth.
Yes.
I mean,
Or little teeth. Like when you see them after
Yeah.
the pre
It's a
werewolf.
lot of teeth.
Crooked tooth. And so,
Yeah, but you get used to it.
jarring.
The further you get into that series, the more you kind of can't imagine
Anyone else doing it?
anyone else
It
doing the
works
art for it.
perfectly once you get used to the visuals.
It's off-putting at first, though.
Exactly.
It's very off-putting. We're going to go ahead and bring it to a close. Tasheena, what's your favorite Halloween memory, and is there anything you'd like to plug? Where can the people find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram and Facebook if you want to find me. I am rather introverted, so don't be surprised if I don't
Introverts.
if I don't respond. But I mean, I'm always at the store, and we've got a great big giant event going on this weekend.
Yeah, tell us about that, because this will be coming out this week. So 26th,
Yeah.
we've got Halloween Comic Fest.
Yes. Yeah, which is this Saturday. Both stores, we're going to be giving away goodie bags to the first 25 people. There's free comics. I've been working my teeny tiny fingers to the bone on some activities for you.
I'm looking at one right now, and I got to tell you, folks, if I can paint you a word picture, the words I'd use are fucking amazing.
I gotta show you the brains for that.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So
But
think about what that could be.
Surprises incoming.
If you
Yeah.
only had a brain, and now she's gonna give you one.
Right.
She is the Oz.
Whoa.
I am like Oz around here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Kinda. I'm the wizard
behind
thing
a curtain.
the curtain
It's
that
just pulling all
makes
the-
events happen.
I don't know if you know how epic of a sentence that was. She is the Oz.
Respect him.
I'm changing my social media handles to I am the Oz tonight. So if you want to
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, what's your favorite Halloween memory?
probably maybe you don't know this about me, probably not. I have 2 boys, and my oldest turned 9 this year.
Wow.
But when he was, let's see, 3, and then when he was 4, I took him trick-or-treating, and his costumes were just the cutest damn thing that I have ever seen in my life. So that's, I guess, I know that's kind of like a
No.
cheesy, corny mom thing
Hey,
to say, but
you're not. You know
It's
what?
the truth.
It's
we
the
asked,
truth.
We asked you for it, and you gave it to us.
Exactly.
There was zero corny about that.
Kelsey,
Except
what
for the
about
candy
you?
corn he got that night, right?
What's your favorite Halloween memory, Kels? And where can the people find you? What do you want to plug?
Let's see now. Where you can find me, Instagram, Snapchat, Kels for Show. Kelsey DeAndre Greer, that's my name. You can find me on Facebook. Follow me if you would like.
he's got a dope new profile picture, by the way.
Oh, thank you,
Dude
man.
is cheesing.
Hey, yo, you
He's
got
cheesing.
when the camera's on,
He
you
is
got to
straight
cheese.
bow tying it up. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I do what I do, baby. I do what I do. But the things I want to plug. Let's see what's coming up. Oh, we're gonna be at Hooked on Books Saturday. It's a special event showcasing local artists, and we're gonna be on doing a 15-minute Q&A section about podcasting. The event starts at 2 and it goes on till 6. Come by, check it out. And as far as my favorite Halloween memory or moment, I would say, well, because we're actually going to do like a little special Halloween episode, so I'm going to save some of that.
Yeah. Don't give away all the goods.
No, I just want to
You
give
gonna
quick,
pocket that? You gonna pocket that?
like Mandy Moore, that every little thing is in my pocket. Yeah. That's a callback,
Oh,
baby.
is that from that movie where she died of cancer?
Yes, and then she had the sequel comic book we talked about, Walk Through Hell. Like, but no, but one of my favorite memories was coming up with this concept in high school with my buddies called All Hallows Eve. It was a story loosely based on our friend group and how it incorporated NORAD and various monuments and historic places in Colorado Springs. It was like a zombie/demon apocalyptic plague that happened all in one night. Then that spit off into a sequel that spun off into a trilogy that spun off into an animated series.
Yeah, I've seen that one. It's called Grindhouse.
And then low-key there was a video game tie-in. The Simpsons did it, so no idea is original, but I'm pretty sure they were in a whole bunch
God damn.
I'm pretty sure. No, it's actually more Stargate meets Hellraiser meets some other shit, but yeah, it was just one of the fun memories. And every now and again, we all just talk about it, and sometimes I just go back through the old notes and read them. Like,
does it make you angry that you're from your friend group? Robert Rodriguez just went on to do it on his own.
Yo, he had to do his thing. He had to do his podcast, man. Like, I'm never gonna hold back my amigo. Fly like an eagle.
There you go.
Yeah.
As far as I go, you can find me on Instagram, Blue Morpho, where the O's are zeros, all one word. Facebook, Daniel Rojas. It's a picture of me pretending to be more important than I am. Make sure you follow the podcast on
You are super
Instagram,
important.
Facebook. We should be getting a Twitter up here at some point. True. And, find the episodes. Well, obviously, you're listening to the episode, but tell your friends to find us on Spotify, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.
Yes, sir.
For me, favorite Halloween memory.
This one's going to be tricky.
There was a time when I was a kid, and this was before my parents were like, even open to the idea of Halloween because that's the devil's birthday. There might be a reason I'm fascinated with all
Is
that
it
stuff
though?
now. But we went to a harvest fest, and you throw the little fucking rings, and you try and get it around a bowl, and you get that fish. Well, me and some friends, being stupid teenagers, seeing who would eat the fish.
Wait, after you caught it,
After
or
we
you
caught
just
it,
went up and
just like, ow. I got the short end of the stick and ended up throwing up that fish later on that night. He was not dead.
yo.
So that's my favorite
Anchovy.
Halloween memory. Thanks for listening tonight, guys. We really appreciate your support on this show. Tasheena, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course.
This is actually take 2.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
We look forward to having you on the show again. We'll make some notes, and maybe you'll replace me or Kelsey for
Word.
a Freaky Friday.
Does that mean I have to come dressed as one of you?
You have to dress as both of us, and then
Like
we
some
get
Two-Face shit?
and then we get to be the guest.
Yeah.
Word.
as
Yeah,
Lindsay
and then
Lohan.
you and
Okay,
I,
but
Kelsey,
then who's gonna dress like me?
we both will.
I will not. Because I don't
mean, I
need a new
can
fan
try.
base. No, I'm joking. I love all my fans.
Tonight we're going to leave you with Lost in the Mail by Colors and Static. They are a local band. They've actually got a book.
A booker?
They've actually got a show coming up December 11th. It's going to be a big one for them. This is their first theater show. And they've also got their second EP coming out at the end of the month. So there may be a show coming up for that, but make sure you check them out at colorsandstatic.com. If you or anyone you know would like to have your music featured on the show, email us at escaping.podcast@gmail.com. We'll put your sexy tunes up there as long as you let our sexy voices accompany it. Thanks for listening, everyone. Remember, there can only be one chum bucket.
And just remember, guys, we're always here for you. So if you got any way to listen, break free and be an escapee. Stay uncanny, y'all.
Never met a hellhound I couldn't tame, till I saw the devil in your smile. Couldn't stand to stay in paradise, so I found the state of denial. We must have been double-crossed by the stars a dozen times. The lines on our palms spelling out poetry in convoluted lines. They say distance makes the heart grow fonder, but the gulf between us was too big to fail. The lines that were meant to connect us must have gotten lost in the mail. Lost in the mail. Our lives spiral together like highway four-leaf clovers, dotting the plains in the same pattern, over and over and over. And even though those strip malls look the same on both coasts, the plumes of smoke rising heavenward remind me more and more lost you.